A little hot. And I'm not talking about my looks. Although, if you saw me, where was I? Oh yeah, I woke up extra early today and I got some extra work done because there is a lot to get through. What with Kamala Harris's campaign, Harris for president now in full swing. Plus there is a full-on media and celebrity propaganda blitz to try to get this woman elected into the Oval Office. And I just don't think it's going to work. In fact, I know it's not going to work. And we've got proof because the Democrats always underestimate the will of the people. The Democrats always underestimate minority voters. They think they can just put a black woman into the candidacy and every black woman or black person will vote. We ain't having that. We ain't playing that, to quote Kamala Harris. Anyway, we've got all that coming up here in Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, which starts right now. Huh? Look at that. Look at it. The Kamala Harris impersonators are here, and I am all for it. I am all for it. It's time for them to shine. It's their heyday. If you are a Kamala Harris impersonator, buckle up, get ready, get out there because the clock's ticking. You may only have 3 or 4 months until your impersonation is no good anymore. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and I'm so excited that you're here. We have so much to get to, but I do want to share this with you because there was an actual news story about Kamala Harris impersonators and how they are being catapulted into the spotlight. Biden impersonators, not so much.
I'll be running for president of the United States. And we have states. And they're united. And because think about it. States should be united. And all the states now, well, they have a president to preside over them.
Yeah, and that is not, she's not the old, that was RN Mama or Mama. All right, here's one. This is the conservative Kamala.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, fellow Americans. Okay.
I mean, the laugh just kills me. And then there's Elsa Kurt, Elsa Kurt is the prima Kamala Harris impersonator. She's the Sean Farish of Kamala Harris, and she's had a fantastic ramp up to this moment. And now, man, she is killing it.
What we want the American people to understand is that we have accomplished many accomplishments. Okay. And we have gotten them done in a way that gets them finished.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be, you know what? It's going to be a fun few months, folks. It's going to be a really fun few months because Kamala Harris is now in full campaign mode. We still haven't even seen Joe Biden speak. Joe Biden's going to speak tonight. Tonight at 8 p.m., Joe Biden, quote unquote, is going to wander up to the podium and he's going to take the microphone and he's going to say something. I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know what he's going to mumble through, but hopefully he'll remember his vice president's name. Last time he called her Vice President Trump. Wouldn't it be so funny if he threw his whole, if he got up there and said, I throw my full support behind Vice President Trump. Vice President Trump should be the next president of the United States. That would make my day, as I imagine it would make the days of several 100,000 or million other people. Chuck Schumer, by the way, is trying to drum up. This is the problem with the Democrats. You had Joe Biden for what seemed like forever. It was 3.5 years. Joe Biden ran and in the primary, he got all the delegates. He was supposed to be the candidate. He debated Donald Trump. And now he's gone. He's disappeared off they won't even show him to us anymore. Not like I'm missing out on what he looks like. But now they've got to really switch gears quickly and they've got to try to drum up some support for Kamala Harris. And it's very difficult. She's not the kind of candidate that people get enthusiastic about. And to prove it, here is Chuck Schumer clapping for Kamala all by his lonesome.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
I'm clapping. Let's throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. You know what? It's okay if you don't clap. I'm clapping. You don't have to. Oh, hold on one second. Come on. I had this right here. Oh, the video file. What do you mean the video file is down here? I'm just going to play it. I'm just going to play it here again because it's just too good.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
That's awkward. That's hashtag awkward if I've ever seen hashtag awkward before. That is Chuck Schumer, the ranking member in the Senate. He's the Senate Majority Leader, and he's trying to drum up support in front of Democrats for Kamala Harris, and they ain't even clapping for her. He's just like, oh, you know what? It's okay. If you guys don't feel like clapping for Kamala, don't worry, because I will handle all the heavy. I will handle all the heavy lifting. Listen, we've got so much going on today. Kamala Harris, they're trying to make Kamala Harris look cool. There's a desperate attempt on the left. There's a desperate attempt in the media. There's this desperation where they need Kamala Harris to be cool. Because if Kamala Harris isn't cool, then that's going to be an issue for them. That's going to be a serious issue for all of the Democrats. They need somebody who the younger generation is going to embrace, who the African-American voting bloc is going to embrace. They need a champion for Gen Z, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to make her a champion for Gen Z, and it's not working very well at all. I don't think. Listen to see it. This is Jake Tapper and the crew on CNN. They're commenting about a story where Kamala Harris has kind of taken over a popular TikTok trend featuring Charlie XCX. Here's Jake Tapper. Oh, by the way, he made a little verbal gaffe and blunder when he started this off. Wait, why are my video files not being found? Now I'm just annoyed. Hang on one second. This is going to be one of those days again. All right, listen, let me go find my video files here real quick. I think I put them, where would they be? I wonder. I think they should be here. All right, here it is. Here is Jake Tapper. We're going to have to do it this way here. Listen to this verbal blunder that Jake Tapper made.
I for the record, I was tipped off about this, what I'm about to share with our viewers rather.
This is going to be annoying. I'm already annoyed. This is going to be, he said, I was tipped off by our voters. I mean, our viewers rather, as to what happened here. And that's the big issue, is that he accidentally called the viewers voters, but there's even more.
I for the record, I was tipped off about this, what I'm about to share with our viewers rather, by my 16-year-old
who truly
daughter,
is an
actual member of Gen Z. Kamala Harris appears to be leaning into this. The singer Charlie XCX tweeted last night, "Kamala is brat." And this is in reference to her album. It's called Brat. Kamala has branded her Kamala HQ Twitter page with the same aesthetic of the album. That's another Gen Z word, aesthetic. It's even becoming a trend on TikTok.
I would argue that aesthetic is not just a Gen Z word. I know a lot of people that use the word aesthetic, but she's glomming onto anything she can find, anything at all that she can find that she thinks will help her, anything at all that she thinks will help her get that younger vote, because she doesn't believe that Donald Trump can win the younger vote. Well, she clearly wasn't at the RNC, BT dubs. Sorry, Keith. At the RNC, all we saw were Gen Zers and influencers and TikTokers. And we interviewed a ton of them. We had Brylan Hollyhand, who decided to contact the RNC and say, hey, look, we need some outreach to the Gen Z community. And there were like 290 million pieces of individual content on TikTok from the RNC as a result. It was really phenomenal. And so Kamala Harris is worried. She's not doing this because she's cool. She's doing this because she needs all the help she can get. She's the single most unpopular vice president in history. Her laugh just makes people cringe. I'm going to be playing that. I turned the volume down because yesterday it blew. I may need to chill on that a little bit more today. But now she realized, they're like, look, who's the most susceptible group? Joe Biden has lost everybody. Joe Biden lost black voters, Latino voters. He lost those suburban soccer moms because of the way that gas prices are skyrocketing and criminals have been infiltrating the suburbs. They can't go to the Louis Vuitton store anymore because it's not safe. The Louis Vuitton store is getting ravaged because in a lot of communities, if you steal a Louis Vuitton bag, you don't even go to jail. So guess what? People are coming in and they're stealing Louis Vuitton bags. So the suburban soccer moms are all gone. And Gen Z realizes, thanks to cool people like Jake and Logan Paul, who are buddy with Donald Trump, thanks to Amber Rose, who's going to be chilling with Candace Owens, I hear later this week, they are now, Gen Z is now MAGA, which is the worst possible thing that the Democrats could hope for. And Joe Biden is the reason. Joe Biden is the reason why that happened. So now CNN is doing an investigative report on how, by using the term brat and by linking up with Charlie XCS, the Kamala Harris for President campaign hopes to turn that around.
I am supposed to say that's brat. And for those who are not in the know the way I am, that is a cool thing. It has a color. Chartreuse is the color, and Kamala Harris has adopted that for whatever social media page that is.
She says whatever social media page that is. She doesn't even know what social media page it is. She goes, she's adopted this chartreuse color for whatever social media page I'm looking at. How can you be a reporter, a social media reporter, talking about a social media trend when you don't even know what social media page you're looking at? Is that an X page? What is that? Is that LinkedIn? I don't even know. Whatever page that is, Kamala Harris is out there, and she's going whole hog into this brat thing. And the chartreuse is really kind of, my wife describes it as puke green, which I agree with. It's definitely not the most attractive color, but it's the color that Charlie XCX adopted for her album, and Kamala Harris, trying to ride the coattails of Charlie XCX, is doing the same thing. Taylor Swift, by the way, I guess wasn't available. I guess they reached out to Taylor and they were like, hey, can you help out the Biden-Harris campaign, or the Harris for President campaign? By the way, I got to take this hat off because it's making me dumber. Every minute I wear it. Can you help out the Harris for President campaign, Taylor? Can you please, Tay-Tay? Because we really, really need some help. And Taylor was like, look, you know what? I threw all my weight behind Biden. I baked the cookies. I'm not into you people anymore. Why don't you call Charlie XCX? So Charlie XCX said, all right, fine, whatever. You can jump on it. And, the interesting thing is that CNN had to do some digging around to actually figure out what Kamala is brat actually means. Listen to this.
Okay, here we go. Charlie XCX, who I do know, quote, brat, you're just that girl who is a little messy and likes to party and maybe says some dumb things sometimes, end quote.
So that is the definition of brat. That is the definition. That is the definition that Charlie XCX gives to brat. Listen to it one more time.
You're just that girl who is a little messy and likes to party and maybe says some dumb things sometimes.
Is that a ringing endorsement? Is that a ringing endorsement? You're a girl who's kind of messy and likes to party and maybe says some dumb things some of the time? Is that how you really want your presidential candidate portrayed to the younger generation of voters?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
I mean, yeah, it's true. But is that really? Okay, it's true. But is that really what you want people to be thinking? Do you really want people thinking that what was it?
You're just that girl who is a little messy and likes to party and maybe says some dumb things sometimes.
I mean, that is, again, an accurate description, but not the thing you think that a lot of people would want Kamala Harris to be defined by early in her career or early in her campaign. Yet that's, you know what, that seems, they're going to roll with it. They're going to run with it. They're going to make sure that everybody knows that Kamala Harris is cool, that she loves Gen Z. Oh, except let's not forget that Kamala Harris, while she loves Gen Z and while she's sucking up to Gen Z and while Kamala Harris is trying to get Gen Z to support her campaign, let's not forget that she actually doesn't really have a lot of respect for Gen Z.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
Okay, so Kamala Harris said that Gen Z is stupid, that we put them in dormitories and give them a resident assistant because they make really bad decisions. And now she's out there actively campaigning to get them to make another bad decision, and that is voting for Kamala Harris. It's really kind of interesting. By the way, speaking of dormitories, I don't know if you know this, Kamala Harris opted not to speak with Benjamin Netanyahu, the president of Israel, who's here. By the way, and don't forget, there's a full-blown war going on. We still have hostages over there. Americans, Israelis, they're still being held hostage. They haven't all been released. Gaza is still a mess. The Hamas terrorists are still threatening to attack. There's no ceasefire. There were drone strikes just over the weekend, so it's a big mess. And Benjamin Netanyahu is here in the United States. Guess who's not going to be visiting him? Joe Biden, yes, but also Kamala Harris. She opted to go hang out with Gen Z we put them in dormitories because they're stupid. She's going to go hang out with the stupid Gen Zers at the sorority house. Look at this. This is Kamala Harris skipping Netanyahu's speech to Congress to address sorority event instead. She is in the middle of a war. In the middle of a war between the Hamas terrorists and the state of Israel. She is not going to meet with the president of Israel, or the prime minister of Israel, rather. She is going to speak to a sorority, because that's what's important. She's going to speak on Tuesday. Israeli Vice President Kamala Harris is snubbing America's biggest ally in the Middle East for a sorority party. On Tuesday, Israeli officials described Harris's decision to skip Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress this week as a boycott and said it was disappointing. The unnamed officials told the UK's Telegraph newspaper that the free world cannot afford leaders who are unable to distinguish between good and evil. The Israeli officials said Netanyahu is speaking to American lawmakers during the Jewish state's difficult war against Iran and its terror proxies. One official said Harris's decision was not a way to treat an ally. A Harris aide said she will miss Netanyahu's address due to a previously scheduled event where she will address the historically black Zeta Phi Beta sororities Grand Boule, I don't know how to pronounce that, in Indianapolis, CNN reported. So, once again, just to clarify, Kamala Harris, who wants to be commander-in-chief, by the way. That's the big part of the job as commander-in-chief. As commander-in-chief of the United States of America, you are in charge of every single one of our military operations. Every single one of our military branches. You're in charge of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Space Force, the Coast Guard, all of it. And when there is a major military conflict, like with our number one ally, not just in the Middle East, but probably in the world, a lot of people say, no, Canada's our number one ally, eh? I don't know about that. I'd give it to Israel. Israel is our number one ally in the world, definitely in the Middle East. The prime minister is coming here, and Kamala Harris is skipping it to go talk to a historically black sorority. Why? So that she can pander once again for those Gen Z votes, even though she thinks that every member of that Gen Z historically black sorority is stupid.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
And that is Kamala Harris's take on Gen Z. And that's her take on world affairs. And that's her take on being commander-in-chief. And that's her take on international foreign relations. I mean, think about this. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson already, thank God, came out and blasted her for it. Speaker Johnson rips Kamala Harris for skipping Israeli PM Netanyahu's speech, just like Biden did in 2025. This from the New York Post. History is repeating itself on Capitol Hill. House Speaker Mike Johnson slammed Vice President Kamala Harris's unconscionable decision to skip Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress on Wednesday, much like President Biden did during the Israeli Prime Minister's last speech to U.S. lawmakers in 2015. President Biden, who was the vice president at the time, skipped that address just like our current vice president will be boycotting the speech, Johnson told the Post in an interview on the eve of Netanyahu's speech. I believe that is unconscionable. You know whose speeches they don't skip? You know whose VIP congressional appearances they don't dip out on? They don't dip out on their good buddy Vladimir Zelensky with two Y's. They don't dip out on Vladimir Zelensky's speeches. Vladimir Zelensky rolls into town, he rolls into Congress, and Vladimir Zelensky gets the star treatment, and every Democrat is there, and they're yelling, Slava Ukraina! Slava Ukraina. And they're taking selfies and pictures and they're dumping bags of cash and they make it a big grand hootie-doo. Hootie-doo? Is it hoopla? What am I thinking? What's a hootie-doo? I don't know. I don't know what a hootie does. But well, somebody call Darius Rucker and find out what a hootie do. But that's the big difference. This is, of course, again, all premeditated. It's all part of the campaign. Kamala Harris cannot afford to lose the misguided pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic faction of the Democrat Party. They went into the Capitol building yesterday, and guess what they did? They took it over. And you know what happened? They were allowed to do it. The Capitol Police had a stand-down order for some reason. They were allowed to sit in the vestibule, the rotunda of one of the Capitol office buildings, just like they did before, when Ilhan Omar threw open the doors and Rashida Tlaib ushered them in with open arms. And they sat there and they protested once again. And this is in preparation, I'm sure, for the DNC in Chicago, where they'll be protesting once again. And Kamala Harris, who's already trying to get those stupid Gen Z voters to vote for her, can't risk being in attendance at Benjamin Netanyahu's speech because it might tick off a bunch of the crazy anti-Semitic pro-Palestinian protesters who are, I guess, somehow still linked to the Democrat Party, but are not convinced that Kamala Harris has their best interests at heart. Guess, by the way, I'll give you one. You'll get it immediately. If you're thinking to yourself, poor Benjamin Netanyahu, nobody's going to meet with him. Joe Biden's not going to meet with him. Kamala Harris isn't going to meet with him. Is anyone going to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu? I'll give you one guess who's going to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu. Donald Trump. Donald Trump released a statement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to meet with President Donald J. Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Friday morning. Looking forward to welcoming Bibi Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. During my first term, we had peace and stability in the region. Even signing the historic Abraham Accords, and we will have it again, just as I have said in discussions with President Zelensky and other world leaders in recent weeks. My peace through strength agenda will demonstrate to the world that these horrible, deadly wars and violent conflicts must end. Millions are dying, and Kamala Harris is in no way capable of stopping it. That was a statement from Donald Trump, who will be the only presidential candidate meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu when he comes to town. Here in just a little while. The other, it's really interesting. This Kamala Harris campaign, I don't know if they were prepared. All right, let me take that back. I know full well they weren't prepared. But just like every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. And on the left, once Joe Biden was gone, they just thought that everybody was going to just naturally embrace Kamala Harris. They thought everybody was going to be like, Kamala, she's our man. If she can't do it, nobody can. But as we see, there's not a lot of enthusiasm for her.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
I mean, it's just so embarrassing. But even Democrat voters are upset, not necessarily because of Kamala Harris, but because of the way she was chosen. How one day it was Joe Biden. Joe Biden drops out of the race, endorses Kamala Harris, and then all of a sudden she has enough delegates. All of a sudden she has enough delegates to win, to be the nominee. All of a sudden she has blinked her. Wait, is that blinking? That's snapping. She blinked her eyes. I mean, she snapped her fingers. And all of a sudden she has all the delegates and she's the presumptive nominee. And all of the people who went to the polls and voted for, Joe Biden or maybe one of the other clowns that was running for his position, they're like, wait a minute, redo. I didn't support Kamala Harris. I didn't donate money to Kamala Harris. I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I voted for Joe Biden. And you can't just hand out the delegates. And Jamie Harrison, the DNC chairman, was on one of the news, I think it was ABC or CBS or one of them, and he was asked about it. He's like, hey, what do you think about these Democrats who say you've basically disenfranchised them?
What do you say to voters who feel that they don't have a voice in this process as it's playing out right now?
Well, voters do have a voice, and they had a voice throughout the process, throughout our primaries. And as a result of what happened in those primaries, we were able to get delegates that were elected from the states. And those delegates are representative of the people in the states.
Okay, somewhat true, but mostly false. It's an interesting way to spin it. Oh, no, the people had a choice. The people went out in the primary and they elected delegates. No, they did not. They elected delegates to vote for Joe Biden. They didn't vote for the delegates. They didn't go in there and say, Harry McGillicuddy, I vote for that guy, and whatever he says goes. They didn't go and vote and say, Janice Nowitzki, I'd vote for Janice Nowitzki. She's going to be my delegate. And whatever Janice decides is best for me I will go with wholeheartedly. The people on the left went and voted for Joe Biden. And based on the number of votes that Joe Biden got, he was awarded the delegates, and the delegates were chosen to vote for Joe Biden. And now, because the delegates have decided we're going to go with Kamala Harris, a lot of Democrats are not happy about it. They are very upset. They're very upset with their party. They're very upset with Kamala Harris. They're very upset with the delegates, and they're very upset with the DNC. And none of those people care. None of those people give a diddly you-know-what about the left. And this is really an interesting thing. This is something we on the right have known forever. The big difference between the Democrats and the Republicans are that the Democrats are purebred evil. Sorry. The Democrats are purebred evil and the Republicans are not. No, there's a lot of big differences. Democrats think government should control every aspect of your life. Republicans think government should protect your country's borders, protect you in times of conflict, and then get the hell out of the way and let you live your life as you please. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, all of that. They look at the Bill of Rights as a guideline for Americans to live by and for government, as a way for government to act. The left looks at the Bill of Rights as a roadblock, as a speed bump. They look at it as a wall that they need to take a sledgehammer to so that they can just get by and do whatever it is they're saying, just railroad the American people. That's the big difference between the left and the right. But what some people on the left now are realizing is that the Democrat Party isn't even the Democrat Party. It is the deep state. It is the group of Washington insiders. It is the group of Washington insiders who have planted themselves squarely in the swamp and planted and grown roots so deep that they can never be extricated. I don't care how big your stump grinder is. There's some people in Washington whose stumps you'll never be able to grind out fully just because they've been there so long and they are so entangled in the power structure that runs this country and one would argue the entire world. And the Democrat Party, quote, doesn't care about Republicans, as we learned in 2020. And now in 2024, they don't even care about Democrats because they are taking away their ability to choose their chosen leader. So many Democrats, I still don't know why, went out and voted for Joe Biden. And now Joe Biden, all of a sudden, is off the ticket. Now Joe Biden, all of a sudden, all those delegates transfer to Kamala Harris, and she's the one that's running unopposed? How does that happen? It's basically, again, the second coup that the Democrats have managed to pull off in the past 4 years, which I think is a record. I don't know what the record for coup d'etats is, but I think the Democrat Party and Nancy Pelosi, Obama, what's her name, Susan Rice, all these people, they've definitely, Ron Klain, they've definitely, if there isn't a record, there should be, and they should definitely get it because 2 coups in 4 years is really not even 3.5. It's really, it is. Say what you will about the Democrat Party, but they are fairly good at overthrowing governments and manipulating their will despite the laws of the land. All right, there's more, but there's a lot more, by the way. The other thing the media is trying to do, because Kamala Harris likes to say that she will put her record up against Donald Trump's any day of the week. Oh, in fact, that's all Kamala Harris has one speech, by the way. Kamala Harris has one speech. If you're a speechwriter, call Harris for president immediately because they are looking for help. They need help. Kamala Harris needs help. She has apparently one speechwriter who's capable of writing only one speech, and now we are going to be subject to hearing this speech over and over and over again. Let me play you what I mean. This was Kamala Harris talking about Donald Trump in Delaware. You may remember that there was a Delaware speech where Joe was on the phone because apparently he couldn't be on the video. We don't know. And it was the first time Kamala Harris was at a campaign event in Delaware where Joe Biden was, but wouldn't physically show up. And this was the remark she made about her now opponent, President Donald Trump.
As many of you know, before I was elected as vice president, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California. Before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Okay, that's really loud. That was Monday in Delaware. This was yesterday in Wisconsin.
Before I was elected vice president, before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And then she has that same ridiculous look on her face. Now, just to prove, because I know there were two different clips and maybe you didn't memorize them, just to prove that Kamala Harris has one speech already, and she gave it 2 times in the last 24 hours, once in Delaware, once in Wisconsin, verbatim, word for word. I am going to play those speeches again at the exact same time. Listen very carefully.
Before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then.
Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of
And
California.
in
Before
those
that, I was a
roles,
courtroom prosecutor.
I took on
In those roles,
perpetrators
I
of
took
all
on
kinds.
perpetrators of all kinds.
Predators who abused women.
Predators who abused women.
Fraudsters
Fraudsters
who ripped off consumers. Cheaters
who broke the rules for their own
broke
gain.
the rules for their own gain.
So hear me when I say,
So
I
hear me
know
when
Donald
I say,
Trump's type.
I know Donald Trump's type.
I mean, come on, you couldn't vary it up a little bit? You couldn't play to the crowd? You couldn't change fraudsters and sexual predators and flip it over? You couldn't do anything differently? Does she not know that these are being nationally televised on different major networks? Does she not know that CNN and NBC and everything, they were ever with Fox News, Newsmax, they were all carrying this live, and that we had to sit through the same speech over and over again? I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. This is the same woman who said, we will, what will be unburdened by what has been, like 1,000 times.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been. That the I know Donald Trump's type is the new unburdened by what has been. That's going to be the new thing. But give me like 3 months from now, we are going to have 17 minutes of Kamala Harris saying fraudsters, sexual predators, ripped off consumers. Believe me when I say I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type. And that's going to be the loop. That is the new what can be unburdened by what has been. There's so much more of this. They're trying to undo her record now, but before we get into that, I have to tell you about my new book, Go Trump Yourself. Go Trump Yourself, 10 Ways to Live Like Trump in a Joe Biden Economy. And I'm going to, one thing, I've read some of the reviews, and I'll do that again too, because we've gotten so many great reviews, and so many people buy this book, and then they get the book, and then they read the book, and thankfully they go back on Facebook, or they go back wherever, and they say, oh my gosh, I bought the book, I read the book, I love that book. Mark K., the book was hilarious. Mark K., it was so insightful. Mark K., you are right on. And what I've done is I've taken stories of my trips and my experiences with Donald Trump and his campaign over the last 8 years, starting in 2016. It actually starts with my very first Trump rally. And being a part of the media, being part of a radio broadcaster, being someone who covered event after event after event, and somebody who also, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman myself, has learned some valuable lessons just by watching Donald Trump. Valuable lessons about economics and business building and being, a good speaker and handling the media and handling the pressures of life and parenthood, being a father, which it's really incredible when you look at all of the successes that Donald Trump has in his life. And I picked on 10. By the way, for example, I'll read you just a table of contents. It says, who is this book for? Which is just a quick thingy. You are fake news. Make blank great again. The best cult ever. That's one of my favorite It's one of my favorite chapters. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can get a copy of this book. It's only $19. You can live like Trump for only $19. And the website is gotrumpyourself.com. Gotrumpyourself, spelled just like it sounds, .com. Get one for $19. You can get you can get 3 books at a 10% discount. You get 6 books, which a lot of people are doing, and they're handing them out to their friends. They're going to give them out as little election day party souvenirs, whatever it is. We have an audio book if you just want to hear me read it to you. We have an ebook version. It's fantastic, and it's really popular. And once you do get your book and once you do read it, please let me know what you think. Post it on Facebook or email me either way, because I love hearing feedback from folks. GoTrumpYourself.com. GoTrumpYourself.com. You can go there now, or you can wait till the end of the broadcast. I'll remind you for sure to go do that. All right, back to Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris, she says, I'm excited to put my record up against Donald Trump's record. I'm excited for that. Are you really? Are you really excited, or are you running from your record? Are you hiding from your record? Are you trying to get your buddies in the media to forget your record? Do you remember the big task that Joe Biden gave Donald Trump, Vice President Trump, gave Vice President Harris? Oh wait, I forgot. My clips have disappeared. I got to go back to here. Do you remember there was a big hoopla made about how Joe Biden made Kamala Harris the border czar? Colin Rugg put together a couple of clips that he found, and Kamala Harris was the border czar. It was her job, since she was such an effective leader and she was from California, and she had a real intrinsic knowledge of the problem, and she was a prosecutor, and she was heartfelt, and she knew how to handle the situation. She was put in as the border czar. And everybody reported on it.
And the Biden administration did task Vice President Kamala Harris with the issue of migrant crossings, naming her the so-called border czar.
I've asked her, the VP, today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
Yeah. So if that was hard for you to understand, basically that's Joe Biden saying, I'm making Kamala Harris the border czar. That's the media reporting that Kamala Harris is now the border czar. Well, as border czar, Kamala Harris did jack crap. She did diddly squat. She did nada, niente, nothing. She didn't even go to the border. She never went to the border, and we know that because Lester Holt called her out on it.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Kamala Harris. By the way, Kamala Harris told Lester Holt when he said you haven't been to the border that she hasn't been to Europe either, but she wants you to know it's Gen Z who's stupid.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24?
They are stupid.
Yeah. I mean, that's the pot calling the kettle stupid if I ever heard it. Anyway, so Kamala Harris was the border czar, but the border czar did nothing, and the border is in worse shape than it was when Joe Biden and the border czar took office. So now the media is backtracking on the whole border czar talk. The media is trying to unmake Kamala Harris the border czar. Whoever, I don't know if you're anointed or if you're knighted, or I don't know how you become a czar, but they're trying to unczar her. They're trying to make us forget that for the past 4 years she's been the border czar. CNN reporting yesterday.
This is the kind of thing that is playing out all over conservative media. I just want to do a little bit of record correcting. There's not record crime right now. Number one, Harris was put in charge, as you said earlier, of combating the roots of immigration. She was not and is not the border czar.
Okay, so that's CNN reporting that she is not and was not the border czar.
She was not and is not the border czar.
I'm sorry. She was not and is not the border czar. That's the CNN report. Axios is reporting. They had an article today. Let me pull this up real quick so that I can share it with you. Harris border confusion haunts her new campaign. In early 2021, President Biden enlisted Vice President Kamala Harris to help with a slice of the migration issue, a move that has turned into one of the newly presumptive presidential nominee's first campaign headaches. Confusion around the VP's exact role, early media misfires, and the rapidly changing regional migration crisis has made the issue a top target for the GOP trying to define their new opponent. Look at this. The Trump campaign and Republicans have tagged Harris repeatedly with the border czar title, which she never actually had. That was Axios, I think today. 9 hours ago. Axios 9 hours ago. Look what our buddy Sean Davis on X pulled up. This was Axios a while ago. The number of unaccompanied minors crossing the border has reached crisis levels. Harris, appointed by Biden as border czar. That's Axios a while ago. Harris, appointed by Biden as border czar. This is Axios today. Harris repeatedly with the title border czar, which she never actually had. What the Democrats are trying to do is enlist the support and the help of their friends in the media to erase this horrible record that Kamala Harris had. She said she'd put her record up against Donald Trump's any day of the week. Donald Trump had an amazing record with immigration. The chart that saved his life outlined exactly how fantastic Donald Trump's immigration record was. The border czar didn't even go to the border.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
She doesn't understand the point. She doesn't understand the point he's making when he says you're the border czar and you haven't been to the border. I don't understand your point, Lester. And I'd appreciate it if you didn't make me look worse than I already do. You're supposed to be on my team. They're trying to undo Kamala Harris's record before it becomes public and before Donald Trump decimates her in the campaign. Donald Trump's already decimating her. He has a new attack ad out, and I hope I can play it. He has a new attack ad out, and the new attack ad is called Dangerously Liberal, and it's all about, guess who? Kamala Harris.
If you thought Joe Biden was radical, just wait until you get to know Kamala Harris. She's dangerously liberal.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. You know, for far too long, the status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
You're confident this border's secure?
We have a secure border.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position that you agree with?
Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's new darling of the party. She 60 Minutes this weekend proudly calling herself a radical, and she's promoting policies like saying that every single carbon emission in the country, every car, should be eliminated within the next 11 years, everything from a 70 to 80% tax rate. Do you agree that she could possibly, in this ideology of the socialist left, could splinter your party?
No, I think that's fantastic.
I love the little laugh on the. I like that they stick the little laugh on the end. So that's Donald Trump's new campaign ad, and it's pretty damaging. You think Joe Biden was liberal? Well, you haven't seen anything yet. Kamala Harris, she wants to tax you to 80% and get rid of all gas-powered vehicles, just like AOC said. She thinks that's fantastic. She wants convicted felons and criminals and rapists and murderers to have the ability to vote. Why? Well, because those are the same kind of people that she likes to bail out of prison as a prosecutor whenever there's riots. She wants you to know that illegal immigrants should be allowed to have government-funded health care. Illegal immigrants who came into this country illegally, who don't even pay into the system, are going to be getting free health care paid for by you and me and every other hard-blooded, hardworking, red-blooded American citizen and or resident who came here legally. That's what she wants you to know. She is dangerously liberal. She wants to get rid of ICE. She wants to defund the police. She stood with Mayor Garcetti in LA when he defunded the Los Angeles Police Department after thugs surrounded his house. Think about this. Think about how strong a leader this is. Mayor Garcetti in LA during the height of the George Floyd riots and the Black Lives Matter movement, Mayor Garcetti had an angry mob show up at his home, encircled his home, demanded that he cut $100 million from the LAPD's budget. And what did he do? He cut $100 million from the LAPD's budget. He basically told people, if you go out and you strong arm your political officials, then you can get whatever you want. And if whatever you want is defunding the police, and guess what? It's going to be easier than ever to strong arm your elected officials because they won't be able to call the police because when they pick up the phone, nobody's going to be there. Why? Because they cut $100 million out of their budget. And Kamala Harris stood with him and said, that's a great idea. I appreciate what he did. She's from California, and she's all for cutting the jobs of Californian law enforcement. This is not the kind of person we need nationally. This is the kind of person that Donald Trump wants you to remind is a threat, a danger. This is the kind of person that 100% can never be in the Oval Office. 100% can never win the White House. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, although Kamala Harris may be a little more dangerous. The ideology, the thinking, the socialist mentality, the puppet masters are all the same. The candidate doesn't matter at all. Kamala Schmamala, Joe Blow, it doesn't matter. The people running the show, the ideology, the deep state, those are the folks who are going to push forward their agenda no matter what. And if you disagree with them, they'll get rid of you. We saw it with Joe Biden, and we'll see it maybe with Kamala if she doesn't fall in line either. Donald Trump wants you to know that, and Donald Trump's fighting hard. By the way, Brendan Dilley also, if you don't follow Brendan Dilley, he has a show. He does all the memes. Brendan Dilley released a clip yesterday, which I want to play for you because the message is solid. And I think I see a lot of people get wrapped up in the Kamalazation of the Democrat Party. They're really excited about her being brat. How Kamala Harris is all brat now. They're all thrilled about that. How they're thrilled about her going out and making these speeches. They think that her being on TikTok is just going to ignite everybody. It's going to ignite the base. It's going to be awesome. But let me just explain. Let me have Brendan Dilley explain to you something very important about Kamala Harris and her chances of ever becoming president.
If your favorite conservative influencers or your favorite Republican politician spent the last 10 days telling you that God came down, intervened into an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, moved his head, saved his life, and that we had all just witnessed a miracle, and 10 days later, they're telling you that God can't overcome the Kamala Harris campaign, there's only two options. Either they're fucking stupid or they're fucking full of shit.
I mean, dude's got a point. If you look at what happened to Donald Trump and you say, that was a miracle, that was miraculous. Donald Trump was standing there. 8 bullets, we now know, 8 shell casings were removed from the scene. 8 bullets flew by his head, one of them hitting him in the ear. All of them meant for his skull. And he turned just enough at just the right moment to have the bullet not miss him, but hit him non-critically so that he was able to get down immediately and that his life was saved. If you believe that there is a God in heaven who kept Donald Trump alive and kept the assassin from killing him, then you can't believe now that same God did all of that because that God wants Kamala Harris in the White House. You can't think in one aspect that Donald Trump is the chosen candidate because God reached down with his angels or whoever and protected him from a bullet, shattering his skull and ending his life and his candidacy and his presidency and this country and this republic at the same time. You can't think that God intervened in that way just to elect Kamala Harris as president of the United States. God doesn't work like that. God showed everybody exactly what the course of action is that we need to take. And Joe Biden dropping out of the race, Kamala Harris taking up the reins, doesn't matter. It's insignificant. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. There's nobody who's going, well, Joe Biden was horrible, but Kamala Harris, she could be the one. There's nobody that said, I'm voting for Donald Trump because Joe Biden has run this country into the ground. He's opened up our borders. He's made me poorer. He's stolen money. Inflation runs rampant. My house is nowhere near as valuable as it used to be. I'm scared for my children's future. I can't afford to send them to college. I'm worried that every time I walk out of my street, an immigrant is going to try to attack me or kill me or rob me. I'm worried about MS-18 gangs that are MS-18, 16, doesn't matter. There's war in Ukraine. There's war in Israel. There's terrorists running rampant. There's probably sleeper cells here in the United States that Joe Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Merrick Garland and the rest of them, and border czar Kamala Harris have allowed to infiltrate our communities, just waiting for the go order from Hamas or from Hezbollah or from the Taliban or from ISIS-K or from whomever. There's nobody that thought that last week and is now thinking, thank God we have Kamala. Okay, now we'll be fine. Joe couldn't do it, but Kamala can. That's not happening. They still want Donald Trump. There is a trend. Speaking of trends, let me go. In fact, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to do this live because I want to make sure that it's still a trend. There's a There's a Twitter trend. There's a trend on X, rather, that I'm going to show you here. Let me just pull up X. So if you go to X and you search hashtag Black American, okay, and you hit enter, look what you get. You get real Donald Trump, number one, Kamala Harris, J.D. Vance. You get all of these people who are hashtagging Black American, and they're proclaiming that they will not be voting for Kamala Harris. This is Latina Brown, MPA. Appears to be from Jamaica. I'm a mother, firefighter, believer, and advocate. She says, I am a Black American woman, and I will not be voting for Kamala Harris. Alyssa Fromda, 513. I am a Black American woman, and I will not be voting for Kamala. Little Currybow. I am a Black American, and I will be voting for hashtag Donald Trump. Pray up. Marcus Crumpler. I am a true Black American man, and I will not be voting for Kamala Harris. Lovey AM. I am a true Black American woman. I would never vote for Kamala Harris for president. It goes on and on and on. Monique 2C. I'm a true Black American and will not be voting for Kamala Harris. Not like us. I am a true Black American, says Crypto Ashley, and I would never vote for Kamala Harris. Rich Crack Baby 33 says, I am a Black American and I will not be voting for a cosplaying Black woman that got to where she is by oppressing Black men. On and on it goes. I'm a Black American man. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm a Black American woman. I will not be voting for Kamala Harris. These are the kinds of people that Kamala Harris needs to vote for her. These are the kinds of people that the Democrats have always assumed would just follow whatever candidate whatever minority candidate they threw up there. These people just assumed that the voters, the Black voters, the African American voters, the minority voters, the Gen Z voters, they just assumed they would blindly follow them anywhere. Why? Because they're stupid.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
And that's Kamala Harris, their chosen candidate, literally telling you that. They believe you are stupid, and you will vote for Kamala Harris because she's younger, because she's blacker, because she's more feminine than any other candidate out there. And that is going to be the downfall of Kamala Harris. That is going to be, Kamala Harris needs help, because the biggest threat to Kamala Harris's campaign is Kamala Harris herself.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Yeah. Listen, before we get out of here, there's a couple things I wanted to mention about the Donald Trump assassination attempt, which I find fascinating. And one of them is, and I don't know why I didn't see this earlier. Hold on, I wrote some stuff down here. I don't know why I noticed this earlier, but I was listening to Candace yesterday, and she said something, and it struck me as 100% true and accurate, and it's something that we really probably should look into, and that is when you're thinking about this assassination and you're wondering, was this premeditated? Was this planned? Was this something that the deep state, the Democrats, the Secret Service, the FBI, the CIA, who knew? Who colluded? And then you have to ask yourself about the media. She pointed out something which I'd mentioned but never really put together in my head. The first thing was that, I told you the story of where I was. I was flying to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was on a plane, got on the plane. This was back when planes flew. By the way, this was back when Delta flights took off. That's how old. I'm so old that I remember when Delta actually had flights that weren't canceled. My flight wasn't canceled. I got on the plane to Milwaukee. I flew to Milwaukee. I sat on the plane. I watched the screen, and I was watching Fox News. Why? Because Fox News was showing the Donald Trump rally in its entirety. Across the aisle, there was a guy watching CNN, which I thought was odd, because why would anyone watch CNN? And CNN was also showing the Donald Trump rally in its entirety. And both of those networks managed to catch the exact moment when the assassination attempt occurred. Both of those networks managed to catch the exact moment when Donald Trump got shot in the ear while glancing at that life-saving immigration chart. Both networks, CNN and Fox News, networks who, as Candace Owens reminded me, vowed not to show full Donald Trump rallies anymore. In fact, think about this. When was the last time a network like CNN or Fox News showed the entire Trump rally? Years ago, CNN vowed not to because they couldn't stand the lies. There were so many lies. Donald Trump just lied for hours and hours and hours, and CNN was not going to give him a platform to lie. CNN wasn't going to just sit idly by and broadcast all of Donald Trump's lies. We're not going to show you the rallies anymore. If there's anything at all pertinent or newsworthy or something that's true that Donald Trump says, we'll bring you that later on, but we're not going to live stream the rally. That's been CNN's operational status for years now. Years. Fox News also stopped showing the rallies in the entirety. I know that because if I wanted to watch the rally in its entirety, I would have to go to our good friends at Newsmax. Newsmax.tv if you'd like to watch them online. You'd have to go to some other online outlet. RSBN would air them. There were places to watch the entire Donald Trump rally, but Fox News and CNN weren't. Two of them. Why on that Saturday did they decide, you know what, this rally in Pennsylvania just before the RNC where Donald Trump happens to thwart an assassination attempt, that's the rally we're going to want to carry. Why did they choose it? Why were they both live? What did they know beforehand to change their programming philosophy about Donald Trump and his rallies? I don't know the answer, but it's a really good question, isn't it? Hey, listen, now's the time, folks. We're wrapping up. So if you want to go to gotrumpyourself.com, now's the time to go. You're not going to miss anything. Gotrumpyourself.com. 10 ways to live like Trump in a Joe Biden economy. Order today. We'll get it in the mail today. Order 1 copy, 3 copies, 6 copies, however many copies you want. They will all be in the mail to you today. We'll send you a tracking number. You can follow along. And then when you get it, you can enjoy this book, which, all right, I'll read you one of them, which Carol Brasington says is one of the most honest and precise people. I guess she's talking about me. You will always be interested in his program. This man never has a bad day. Thank you so much to Mark K for voicing the truth. Very good. That's very nice. This book is the truth. It's going to entertain you. It's going to inform you. It's going to enlighten you. My hope is that it changes your outlook on life, keeps you confident, keeps you inspired, keeps you moving forward, and keeps you doing everything every single day to make your life better, your family's life better, your financial situation better. Because the way to make America great again is to make Americans great again. The way to make America strong again is to make Americans strong again. The way to make America rich again is to make Americans rich again. And those are all things that I hope this book and the symbolism and the lessons directly from Donald Trump help you do. Go TrumpYourself.com. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Thanks for downloading it. I hope you've subscribed. I hope you've subscribed to YouTube and Rumble, wherever you happen to be watching it live. If you're on X, definitely give us a follow. We are going to be here every single day. We know what they're trying to do with Kamala Harris. We know how to combat it. We know that Donald Trump is still the best choice for this country, and we are going to continue to carry that message on. We are going to forge on. We are going to push forward because it is our constitutional right and our obligation as Americans to bring you the truth, to be purveyors of the truth. We need to get out there. And not just me. Here's the thing I always tell people. It's not just me. Everybody's got to be an evangelist for America. If you're not evangelizing American idealism and greatness and the concepts that our founding fathers put together, then you're not doing your part as an American. God wanted all Christians to go out and preach the word of God and tell the good news and share the story of Jesus and goodwill toward men. That's your job as a Christian. You go to church for an hour a day, an hour a week. Not just for that hour. You go to that church for an hour a week, and then the rest of the week, you're supposed to be out there being the preacher, being the priest, sharing the gospel, sharing the good news. The same is true of America. You can listen to me for an hour a day, but the rest of the time, you've got to be reminding everybody how valuable this country is, how amazing and great this country is, and how fragile this country is. And the good news is, if you don't want to talk for an hour, if you don't want to play clips, if you don't want to come up with TikToks, if you don't want to do anything, if you don't want to watch, don't worry about it. I've already done it. All you have to do to evangelize the message of America and how we all need to save her is to take this podcast, take my video, take my X feed, whatever it is, and just share it. Share it with like-minded patriots. Share it with like-minded friends and family. Share it with people who don't share our vision, who don't understand what we're trying to do, and maybe we can bring them over to the right side of the aisle. Because it's going to take all of us working together every single day, spreading the message to save the Republic.